Exalt here and I'm back with a new Platinum Duo for Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. My friend and I kept the same builds as the last time, the same builds as in the last video. So I basically used Universal Power M3 shotgun rail together with the Crusader and the Piranha. I put all my points in turbocharge, flak cannon, munitions training, and aerial assaults. We chose the Outlaw faction, but we left the map random so that it could be a semi-random duo. So we were happy in the first place to have this map because we know that it's very solo friendly, so it should be duo friendly as well. And also, we know that because the Outlaw faction is made of berserkers and other units that will come to direct contact with you, like anointed units,
Hostile territory, people. Secure this position and stay sharp.
or other kind of units like Addies, for instance, we chose to defend our own areas to try and remain separated so that just in case neither of us can get overrun. So I use flak cannon to stagger the enemy, and then I use the Piranha to deal a huge amount of damage. If you look at the berserkers, for instance, they can't resist the strength of the flying Turian. Moreover, the Piranha is very friendly for weak points, and it's very useful against observers as well. I always have this impression that I'm taking pictures like a paparazzi, for instance. So just shoot flak cannon, stun the enemy, like the berserker is stunned just right now, and then shoot with the Piranha. And in case your ammunition is depleted, then just press turbocharge for express reload. The first wave went pretty smoothly.
Objects of interest detected in the mission area. Find and return to drop point.
Recovery. Well, my friend doesn't like this objective at all, because he's always using the human juggernaut. So as a result, he moves very slowly. Did not choose to spec points in mobility, but because he relies on me for diverting the enemy, he chose to do the first one.
Artifact recovered.
He knows that I can take damage with my flying Turian, and that I can kill Hydras in a blink, as I just did. So we did the same thing for the second object, but he told me that he was being flanked by two berserkers, so I tried to come to direct contact with them to stir their attention away from my friend. And the Hydra can't deal much damage to me. See, I survive and I kill it very rapidly. I was even hoping that probably we could reach the cap for Hydras on wave 2. So he died between the second and the third object. The object was in my way, but the problem is that, as I told you earlier, the Outlaw faction has many units that come to direct contact with you, so I found it preferable to revive him first, because he could help me divert the enemy away from the object, and this is exactly what I wanted. Another possibility for us is to deplete the wave budget so that no Hydras or no Berserkers are remaining on the field. It's another possibility that is really feasible, in my opinion, depending on the kind of character you use. The fact that the Turian Havoc Soldier works pretty well with the Juggernaut is very helpful in this regard. Because what my friend does is simply to snap freeze all the enemies, especially armored enemies. As you already know, snap freeze does not work when an enemy is shielded. So he spams snap freeze and I come with my shotguns, my overpowered shotguns. And when I need express reload, I don't hesitate to press the button that will allow me to instantly restore all my power cells as well as my ammunition. Even if you're reaching zero, imagine all your ammunition is depleted, then you can use supercharge instead of the ammunition packs. That's something that I believe with the Turian Havoc Soldier is a plus. Turbocharge is a very good power. But because this was the end of the wave, my friend chose not to revive and save it mid-packs. My goal was simply to finish the wave without dying, of course. But that was okay. I think we almost reached the cap on the Berserkers, because as you can see there were no Berserkers left, only Observers. Which also means that all Berserkers are replaced with Observers. I don't know if you can imagine how violent that can be, having 8 Observers at the same time on the field, but that's also it's also nice to have Observers instead of Berserkers on the field, because that makes the field quite quiet.
Enemies incoming.
Like any other unit, the Observers are very sensitive to flag cannon. Because I'm flying and because I need to stay in the air, I also use the aim function of my gun to be sure that I don't miss with my flag cannon. A wave 3 as such is not a difficult wave, but it can be tricky sometimes when you have Destined hiding in their smoke. Fortunately, that's the only time we see them, and that's a nice thing. We also know that it's the last time we see the Observers, but there aren't many as Observers as during the first 2 waves, so they're not so annoying. What is really annoying is that you have lots of different unit types at the same time on the field, so you can quickly find yourselves overwhelmed. For example, the sharpshooter. If you compare wave 3 to other wave on the platinum difficulty, well, it's clear that the Outlaw faction has the toughest wave 3, I believe. For example, the Remnant faction doesn't have any observers in wave 3, but instead they have sharpshooters. And if you look at the Outlaw faction, they have both. And they have Hydras. Oh, and you have Saboteurs as well, because wave 3 is pretty erratic. It depends. It's like wave 1 with the Ket. The unit types you will have to fight against changes depending on the game. Sometimes you'll have pariahs or anarchists. Sometimes you can have 2 units of the same type, like 2 pariahs. And let me tell you, that's really annoying, especially on solo runs. Wave 4. For this objective, we were lucky to begin with, I must say.
Intel says the cat left genetic surveying devices in your area. Let's find and disable them.
As you can see, the first device just popped up right where my friend was. We did not expect that. So I'm trying to keep the enemy away from the roof. That's why I shoot flak cannon.
One problem gone.
Wave 4, though we are done with observers, can be really treacherous, as I mentioned earlier, because of the anointed. I think there are a couple of those.
Teammate injured.
I'll come to you.
You have to always look around to be sure that they can't shoot you from afar,
Almost done.
because practice makes perfect. You tend to learn where the anointed go on the map. They have different ways of coming at you. Sometimes they just engage in close combat. You know, they punch you in the face and that hurts actually. And then they shoot. Or they can just avoid you and remain in a distance and shoot you from afar, just like that. So clearly there was no time for the device, and the only thing I had to do except pray was to use flak cannon to stagger the enemy,
Attack is deactivated.
because all the enemies were gathering around the device, and this was exactly what we tried to avoid. So my friend had a hard time with the Outlaw faction. And usually it's because of units like saboteurs or any other units that can just break your shields in just a hit. For now the Anointed is okay because it doesn't have any purple nameplates, but they become really tough just like the saboteurs once they get their purple nameplates. Fortunately there are many ways to try and bypass their shooting animation. If you go straight to them, they will try to melee you. That will cancel their shooting animation, which can save your life.
Just 3 hostiles.
In a way, you can compare them to the Ravagers in Mass Effect 3. At the time, if you engage in close contact with them, they would stop trying to target you and instead they would melee you in their way. It was not really melee, but it was a form of melee, the Swarmers.
Enemies incoming.
So Wave 5, we know that Wave 5 is the toughest, obviously. We have lots of boss enemies. 2 Hydras to begin with. Chose to engage them, and because I know that I could survive, and even if I dropped actually, I tried to make them blind, but as you can see that didn't really work. But after all, that just cost me a Medigel. But that Medigel helped me decrease the wave budget and then, you know, speed things up. There are a lot of saboteurs and these things can really kill you in a blink. That's annoying. If I stick to my comparisons with Mass Effect 3, then the saboteurs are like phantoms.
I'm reading a flat line.
So my friend was dealing with much of the aggro. Trying to lure the enemy on the roof. That's a good way. In fact, Vertica, I told you that each of us tried to defend his own area. But let me also tell you that I played a lot with verticality. You know, whenever it was on the roof, I tried to go down, and whenever it was going down, I was trying to go up, so that, you know, it was easier to divide the enemy lines and to conquer them as a result. Wave 5 and Wave 3 are very similar, aside from the fact that there are no longer any observers on the field. The big difference is that every single unit except sharpshooters have purple nameplates, so they are tougher than usual. That's the first time I used a Crusader, actually. That's a shame, it's one of my favorite things. See? Just stun the Anointed and then shoot. And use verticality to confuse the Hydra. So that, you know, it loses time over deciding what to do. So the wave is drawing to a close. Finally, there are a few units remaining on the field, so we are tracking them.
Squad member down.
I'm coming!
You see, Anointed can just kill you in a blink. That can be really surprising. That's how my friend got killed, and the sharpshooter was about to kill him, so I used flag cannon to prevent him from doing so. Or to prevent her. I don't really know actually whether sharpshooters are women or not. I think they are.
Compromise!
3 more to go.
One last saboteur.
All enemies clear. Keep it up.
There are many saboteurs on wave 5.
Intel shows key enemy personnel in that area. Don't let them leave.
I guess that there's probably a cap on certain units and that we reached the cap. Wave 5 has 2 Hydras, yes, but in fact, you should know that, in fact, there's a strict budget limit on Hydras in Wave 5. And if I'm correct, I think you can't have more than 3 or probably 4 Hydras. Because they have purple nameplates. So it means that basically they are tougher, so the budget limit is more restrictive as a result. That's why you have more saboteurs in the end. So the target objective is not the one that we fear the most, because Blaze Hydra is just armor. That's all it is. It doesn't have any shields. Once it's blind, well, it's pretty useless.
Target eliminated. Well done.
It's rather the other units camping around the Hydra that are annoying. Aerial combat is again a great ability. As you can see, you can survive Hydras when they shoot you. Most kids in the Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer would not survive such a hit, but the turret havoc soldier just does. He's awesome, really. But I think that my friend had a problem with it Medigel, that's why he, could not really use them. That was so close.
Squad member down.
So yeah, aerial combat, I was bragging about it earlier, but as you can see, it's also very easy to get down by the enemies. There's an ascendant starting on wave 6 and on wave 7, the Ascendant gains a purple rate, so it's even tougher. I like to use the Crusader against the Ascendant, but sometimes, and that's the big problem with the Crusader and the fact that the Turian Havoc Soldier is always moving, is that sometimes you miss, like, almost 30% of the time. As far as I'm concerned, it depends on the day. Sometimes when you are, sleepy or you are just tired, you can't really shoot correctly, so it's a give or take weapon, really. It can do amazing things, especially if you're hosting the party because you don't have any lagging issues, or you shouldn't have.
Shuttle incoming. Get to the extraction zone.
High drop.
Extraction wave was okay.
Lock line of sight. Lock field.
Wave 7 resembles Wave 6 a lot, except of course you don't have any objective.
Get down. Shield down.
Wave 7 Outlaw is the only wave without observers. You have observers with the cat and with the remnants, but not with them. You only have ground units,
Hydrant play.
except the Ascendant, of course.
Lock field.
And I don't know, the wave has a dynamic that I very much like. And that makes a lot of armor to kill. There isn't any saboteur. That's a huge change as well. Only 30 seconds remaining now. And be really careful when you cross the map, because the Hydras, if they can see you, they will target you, sometimes behind your back, and you just get down like this. As you can see, I almost got down, but thanks to aerial combats, I managed to survive. And even that moment when I fell, well, there were like a few seconds remaining and I have 2 Medigels. So as long as I'm on the zone, I'm not, losing either experience or money. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this duo and that you will be able to do that at home if you want. Sometimes it's funny to play with just another player, especially when that player you have good connection with him or her. Thank you again for watching this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you want. And I see you in the next video. Bye.